I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask us to stand for our national anthem and the acknowledgement for land.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you. Just before we call the meeting to order, I just want to take the time to welcome each and everyone here this afternoon for April 26th board meeting, and want to introduce our new board reporter, Timmy, who is replacing Marina, who retires after many years with this board. So welcome, and we look forward to working with you. Just wave, let everybody see who you are. Hey. Thank you. Can I have then approval of the agenda? Trustee Hobb, Trustee Kathy McDonald. All those in favor? Thank you. Any declaration of conflict of interest? I'm seeing none. Celebrating our board activities, 6.1, IT support staff, 6.2, Asian Heritage Month, 6.3, Jewish Heritage Month, and 6.4, School Student Staff Success. We are all on the board behind us to recognize all these groups that will be celebrating either in this month or the month of May. Thank you. Then we'll move down to item 7, which is staff recognition. And I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Cole this time.
Thank you. So I used to read the names out loud before, but tonight we have everybody's name posted on the bulletin board above us. So I do want to say that we do appreciate everybody's years of service and commitment to the Peel District School Board, and thank you very much for your time, your involvement, and your years of commitment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cole. Much appreciated. We'll move down to item 8 on the agenda, which is a board chair announcement. I just want to bring to my colleagues and staff attention that today I attended the Minister of Education monthly teleconference with all the chairs across the province, and I thought there was 3 items that I want to share with you that was discussed. More information is to be followed. He talks about the importance of releasing GSN in time to ensure that board can prepare for staffing, and talks about the increase that the government will be adding to the GSN to ensure that we continue to provide support for students who really need the support. It talks about the importance of ensuring that our students are learning math, are able to read. So he wants to make sure that he invests in those things. And then he also talks about the new transportation procedure that was announced. He said it's important that we get students to school safely. And he also recognized that for years, we have, board has been underfunded in terms of transportation. And that because of the evaluation and the constant advocacy from the Ontario School Board Association, the various different school board association and staff member, it is important that they listen. And he's saying that they have listened, and this is the reason why they're looking at providing funding that will transport more kids to school, because he feels that when kids get to school and they're not tired, it's better for them to learn. And then the final piece that he spoke about, he understands the pressure of the lack of TA within school board across the province. He talks about important that he wants to make sure that the supports are provided to board to do rapid, as he put it, rapid training to TAs to get them in front of students as quickly as possible, especially for the students with special needs and those that are maybe challenged in different areas of their learning, so that they can get the support that they need. So those are the three key pieces that take away the minutes. There was a number of questions from some of the chairs, but he only had half an hour. But the minutes will be sent, and when that is sent over to me from the minister's office, I will share it with my colleagues. So thank you, and that's the chair announcements for today. I move down to item 9, and Director Saru doesn't have any reports today. And item 10 is report from student trustees, and we have none today. And item 11 is trustees that are appointed external organization, and we have a report from trustee Benjamin from Volunteer MAC.
Good evening, everybody. Through you, Chair, April 16 to April 22nd was National Volunteering Week, and the theme was Volunteering Weaves Us Together. Here is a brief report. The VMBC, or Volunteer Mississauga Brampton Caledon, is a registered charity that promotes volunteerism. I represent the Peel District School Board on the board of the VMBC, which is connected to over 150 not-for-profit member organizations serving the region of Peel. It has a multi-pronged approach with programs and volunteer opportunities for high school students, youth, new immigrants, and residents of the communities of Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. The VMBC flyer for National Volunteer Week was emailed to the guidance counselors of all the PDSB high schools with a request to let me know if they were using the services of this organization. And I received a response from about 8 schools. Further, Erini Shenuda, Instructional Coordinator, Guidance and Career Education, also connected with me and shared that the guidance counselors promote the VMBC in their respective schools. In fact, even during COVID, VMBC provided students with opportunities to volunteer virtually. I was also informed that all high schools in the PDSB have an in-school scholarship for students achieving the most hours by volunteering. Fletcher's Meadow Secondary School is holding a community fair during lunch hour in their school on Friday, 28th of April, and VMBC will be represented by their staff. Last but not least, I would also like to share that I was on the OPSBA panel for selecting the winners of the province-wide PPAN scholarships for high school students going on to post-secondary education. This $1,000 scholarship is provided to one student from each region in Ontario. Most of the applicants put in anything from 200 to 500 hours of volunteer work. The winner of 21-22 PPN scholarship for the Central West region was Victoria Gotcheva, student of Glen Forest Secondary School of the Peel District School Board. I request all our newly elected trustees to encourage our high school students to volunteer not only in high school, but continue to make it a habit even later in life, as volunteerism opens many doors and will positively impact their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Benjamin, for that report. Much appreciate your work there. I'm going to ask Trustee Cameron and Trustee Hav to move receipt of this. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I'm going to move down to the number 12, which is our consent agenda items for approval. The first one is item 13, which is approval of the minutes of our previous board meeting, which took place on March the 29th. I'm going to ask Trustee B. McDonald to put them on the floor, Trustee Will Davey to second. Any questions, concerns? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And item 14 is minutes from committee meeting for receipt and approval. So the first one tonight is item 14.1, which is the minutes from our Special Ed Advisory Council from February 21st, 2023. And they're here. Who's on that committee? Trustee, who's on that committee? Trustee Davey?
I am.
Okay, Trustee Clark will move those for me, and Trustee Benjamin. Benjamin, second that. Okay, question, concerns? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? Carry. Thank you. Okay, then we will go down to 14.2, which is our minutes from the audit of March the 9th. Trustee Jill Connelly is going to move that for me. And Trustee Bailey is moving second that for me. Question, concerns? See none. All those in favor? Carry. Thank you. And we are going to go down to the item 14.3, which is the Planning and Finance Building Committee of April of 14. Trustee Cameron is going to be putting that on the floor for me, and is seconded by Trustee Cole. Question, concern? See none. All those in favor? Carry. Okay. And then we're going to go to 14.4, which is the Governance and Policy Committee meeting of April the 12th. Trustee B. McDonald is putting that on the floor. Trustee Alf is seconding that for me. Okay. We're going to move receipt of that. All those in favor? Carried. We got, I'm getting to that. Don't worry. Okay. All right. Out of that meeting, there are several motions that came out of that meeting now to be considered. And I will go through them one at a time, and we will have approval of these motions. Okay. So the first one is repeal of policy 3, appointment of administrative supervisory personnel. That policy 3, appointment of administrative and supervisory personnel attached is the appendix to be repealed, and that the administrator bring back a report and the standard for hiring administrative and supervisory staff as a guideline. Trustee McDonald, you're putting that on the floor. And Trustee Davey is moving to seconding that. Okay. Okay. Question, concern? See none. All those in favor? Carry. Thank you. All right. Number 2, naming of schools. And naming of schools and special function areas and facility policies, and that the naming and renaming of schools, special function areas and facility policy as amended to approve and replace with existing policy 27. The naming of school, that the naming and renaming of schools, special function areas and facility procedure be received, and the information is in Appendix 2. Trustee McDonald, moving this. Again, Trustee Hove, seconding that. Questioning concerns? Okay, all right, I'm seeing none. All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, can I just make a couple comments on that?
Sure you can.
Is that okay?
Yes, sure you can.
Thank you. My only concern with this is, again, everything has a name, and as most things are named after people. And if we're doing this from a perspective of trying to not get controversy, there's controversy in any name of any school. We had a groundbreaking ceremony on Malala last Friday, and if you can believe it, I did get 2 angry phone calls about the name of that school, if you can believe it. Again, it's the second one, I'm sure, was from the first guy's brother-in-law, but it was just one of those things where he said, you don't know the whole story. There's always 2 sides. And I don't have a problem with that school, and I did think I won that argument by saying, you know, for every angry middle-aged man, as long as 3 young girls are inspired to go to school, I can live with this. And that's how it's done. But I just want to make sure, I don't want this to staff to see that we're micromanaging or anything like that. I have full faith in staff to name schools as they see fit and bring it to the Board of Trustees. And again, we have the final say on this, guys. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just wanted to add that at the governance meeting, I raised the concern, but I'd raise it here again, that, and I didn't get a response, I guess, in time for this meeting, with my concerns about if there are any schools or facilities that have been named after individuals, and the families have been asked the permission to name institutions or schools or a facility after them, and went through approvals. And if those commitments were made to those families, is this policy now going to impact previous commitments that were made? And I don't know, through you, Chair, if somebody could answer that for me. So if there are any prior schools or buildings that were
So I could turn it over to Director Saru to ask staff to answer, but from my own experience and knowledge, Trustee McDonald, it would still have to come to this board or any other board after this for approval. And at that time, the board has the right to either ask question whether we had the commitment, and we can uphold those commitments. This board will still have oversight over that.
Okay, so so this policy is saying now, based on what you're saying, let me make sure I understand, that if there's a prior commitment to a family, that the board has an obligation to uphold it.
Yes.
Okay, I'd just like clarification, please.
Okay.
From her.
This one killed her? Just 1 second. I'm going to check with my governance officer to get some clarity around this new policies.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so to clarify that, if there was any commitment, it would have been already approved by the board. Any commitment that was already approved by the board, then we would then uphold that commitment. However, this policy, once it's passed, become effective. But even though it could become effective, any decision around naming of school would still have to come to this board for approval, and then this board will make that decision at that time.
Okay, so when if there's a situation that exists
Yeah.
where a family has been contacted and request approval to name a building after somebody or a school, and the board and the family agreed, right? And if it comes before us, it's still at the will of the board to determine whether or not they're going to honor that agreement with the family.
Yes.
Okay, so then I won't be able to support, unfortunately, that motion based on the fact that it's not guaranteed that if a commitment is made, that the board will honor its commitment. And I think that that's very important for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to call the vote, and the vote is for those in favor of approve of this policy. It's already Trustee McDonald and Trustee Hobb already raised their hands. So all those in favor of this policy, please raise your hand. Okay. Nicole, you're counting that, right? You're good? Thank you. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. And those abstain? One. One opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, so I'll move down to the next item for approval. Item 3, which is student registration and admission policy. And it reads that the student registration and admission policy attached as Appendix A be approved. And again, I'm going to Trustee McDonald, Trustee Av. Okay, any comments, concerns? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Opposed? Seeing none. Thank you. Okay, and the final one, Trustee McDonald, if you can just turn off your mic for me. Thank you. Thank you. So, which is the record retention schedule, and that record retention schedule attached as Appendix A, be approved and adopted as a bylaw. So, again, Trustee B. McDonald, and who else is on that committee? Trustee Bailey. Okay, all right, great. All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Abstain? Carried. Thank you. All right, good. And we're going to move down to item 15, which is staff report and ministry directive 24. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Saru to introduce Associate Director Gill.
Thank you, Chair Green. I will now ask Associate Director Jaspal Gill to present Directive 24, the Employment System Final Report.
So thank you, Director Saru. And through you, Chair Green, actually, I will ask Executive Officer Kangura to introduce the report.
Thank you, AD Gill, and through you, Director Swaroop and Chair Green. I will present a report on the completion of Directive number 24, the Employment Systems Review. By way of brief background, the board retained an independent expert who's joining us remotely today to conduct a comprehensive employment systems review, the ESR, including a review of the implementation of the recommendations of the 2013 Turner Consulting Group research report on hiring and promotion of the Peel District School Board. The executive summary provides an overview of the ESR findings and recommendations, and this now concludes the review process. An ESR committee was established in May of 2020, comprised of 29 members, representing a cross-section of staff, including unions, federations, associations, and employee resource groups. On June 2nd, 2020, Turner Consulting was awarded the contract as the independent expert to complete the ESR. An initial meeting was held with ESR committee members and Tana Turner on June the 25th, 2020. Ms. Turner shared the methodology of the ESR, the project work plan and scope, as well as the possible committee structure to move the work forward. Turner Consulting Group engaged in a comprehensive process to collect data and feedback to conduct an analysis of the board's employment-related processes and policies. The analysis is now complete, and a summary report has been finalized along with the recommendations. As next steps, Human Resources will now review the report and its recommendations to develop a project plan to implement the recommendations to revise, strengthen, and change its existing practices, policies, processes to align with the ESR findings. Furthermore, the project plan and the implementation resulting from the ESR recommendations will be grounded in principles of equity, fairness, and accountability to increase representation of diverse staff to better reflect the PDSB student demographics. While Human Resources has undertaken several identity-specific initiatives to increase staff diversity and representation, which has yielded initial positive results, Human Resources is committed to continuing the work in this regard for sustained change and to continue to prioritize the hiring of Black and Indigenous staff. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Tana Turner and her team for the review, and I know that we will immensely benefit from her experience. As next steps with the work on the ESR, the project has concluded and the executive summary is presented to the board for review and receipt. HR will review the report and formulate a project plan for the implementation of the recommendations in the ESR. The recommendations from the ESR report will assist with the framing of the PDSB's equity and fairness in employment strategy. This now concludes the final update on Directive 24, and I'll hand it over to Tana to take you through the report. Over to you, Tana.
Okay, thanks so much. And happy to be here today to present a brief summary of the Employment Systems Review Report. Just a bit of background with respect to the methodology that we used for the review. We did review all the board's employment policies and procedures and any related documents. We did review also 28 files for competitions that were completed between 2020 and 2021. And in addition, we did hold extensive consultations through an online survey, focus groups, and one-on-one telephone interviews, through which about 1,500 employees participated in those consultations. And I do want to thank staff who courageously shared their experiences and perspectives throughout the consultation process. As a result of our analysis, we've made 108 recommendations, which fall into 4 priority areas. Priority 1 is with respect to strengthening the employment equity infrastructure at the board. Our review found that even though the Journey Ahead report was intended to kick off the board's employment equity work in 2013, the board really remains at the beginning of its workplace equity journey and certainly has a good deal more work to do to strengthen the employment equity infrastructure. So we've recommended that the board develop an employment equity strategy so that this work is proactive rather than reactive and that it embeds equity throughout all HR practices. The board also needs to educate employees about employment equity and what it means and the benefits to students of having a diverse workforce and diverse teachers in the schools. And certainly there's a need also to address resistance to the board's equity efforts. Priority 2 is to diversify the workforce at all levels. And throughout the consultations, employees shared their concerns that hiring and advancement at PDSB continues to be relationship-based rather than skill-based. And while effort has been made to prioritize the hiring of Indigenous and Black teachers, the board needs to do more to create equitable hiring practices that remove barriers for all groups. Priority 3 focuses on creating a more inclusive and welcoming work environment. Indigenous employees and those from other equity-seeking groups report that PDSB workplaces are not always safe and welcoming environments for them. They shared experiences of harassment and discrimination that many don't report out of fear of the impact that reporting may have. And some also shared that even when they do report incidents, that the issue isn't always addressed. And in order to get the best from employees, the board needs to create welcoming and inclusive work environments in which all employees can bring their full selves to work and contribute their best to the organization and to Peel students. Priority 4 is creating more equitable policies and practices. And certainly with a focus on the employment policies and practices. The review identified several areas that need to be addressed to strengthen HR policies and practices, as well as to ensure compliance with the Ontario Human Rights Code and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. This also includes ensuring that all employees, but in particular employees with disabilities, have access to accommodation that allows them to do their best work. The board also needs to ensure that it is meeting its duty to accommodate under the Ontario Human Rights Code. And lastly, I just want to highlight the importance of this work as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the past few years, across the province, across the country, we've seen teachers experiencing burnout and leaving the profession in large numbers. And the result is that Ontario has moved from an oversupply of teachers to an undersupply, with boards across the province struggling to recruit and retain both occasional teachers and permanent contract teachers. PDSB must ensure that it also pays attention to the impact of the pandemic on employees and also focus on creating psychologically safe and inclusive workplaces. If it is to ensure that it has sufficient and capable staff to support the learning and well-being of students. So thank you for allowing me to share this update, and I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you for that report, Tana. It's always great to see your work and always do good work for this board. And at this time, I'm going to ask trustees if they have any questions in terms of this report that is presented to us this afternoon. And I see Trustee Alves raising his hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Through you, Chair. A question that I have, perhaps I missed it in the report. I was just looking for it, but there was mention to something that I found quite alarming. In the presentation, there was mention to facts supporting hiring practices being relationship-based today, and I was trying to find the supportive evidence in the report. I'm worried I missed it. Could we get some clarification there, please?
Okay.
Sorry, can I just...
Go.
Sorry, want me to answer that?
Sorry, may I ask Tana Turner,
Yes.
consultant,
Okay.
to
Please.
respond? Yeah. Thanks, Tana.
Okay, thanks. Certainly that was the perception of employees with respect to what they have perceived happening in the workplace, and that the hiring is based on who you know, not what you know. It's very hard to find evidence in the documents with respect to that, but certainly that was a perspective that was shared by a large number of employees who participated in the consultations.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, through you, Chair. Just to follow up, so we put this in the report, and we're seeing that we don't have evidence. What was a study conducted? Do we have any background on any investigation that might have taken place given that sentiment?
Go ahead, Director.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So I think this is sentiment expressed by staff when Tana's team was conducting one-on-one and focus group sessions. This was a sentiment expressed by some staff. So it's hard to anecdotally investigate when we don't have the real facts associated with the issue. But this is certainly feedback that Tana's group received. And where there is ever a complaint, certainly, absolutely, we will investigate and get to the bottom of what may have occurred.
Thank you kindly, through you, Chair. My final follow-up, a question, I suppose, would it be appropriate at this time to request a motion on the floor to direct staff to investigate this and pursue it, to bring a report to find out if that is the case or if it isn't?
I think to maintain the integrity and the good faith of staff sharing this with a third-party consultant, I think it may jeopardize sort of the access that staff had to share this information confidentially. Now, to go back to identify who may have felt this, it may sort of not work to the process that we would have intended to.
Okay, thank you. I suppose perhaps we'll table it for thoughts and governance, but just a comment as I close. My only preoccupation there was that, if that is the sentiment of some, it's something serious that should be looked into, but I appreciate your response. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Vice Chair Cole.
Very quick question. I noticed that it sounds like the statistics came from 2020 to 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, the consultation, we engaged in the process after the ministry directives were rendered, and we engaged with Tana in 2020, and I think she completed her consultations around spring of 2021, so the data would have been somewhere around there.
Okay. Do we have anything for 2022, 2023 yet?
So Tana's study did not. There's a bit of a lag with the study and the currency of your question. So we have data, but not necessarily for this report.
Do you know when that would be coming out for the last 2.5 years?
Okay,
2 years?
Vice Chair Cole, I'm just reminding you that follow-up question always asked through the chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And through you, Chair Green, the ESR review is now completed. And so the data that we have is for the up until the 2021 time period.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Okay.
For your chair.
Thank you. Okay. Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair.
Yes.
The objective states in the report that it's a final report, but I would argue that it was a very, very high-level executive summary. And I was just wondering when the full ESR report was coming to the board.
Okay, Director, go ahead.
Through you, Chair Green, it was our intent to provide an overview of the broad areas of scope of the study, and certainly the findings out of that. There are several operational matters that will be taken into consideration when HR reviews the recommendations, and thereafter which we'll develop a work plan.
Okay.
So we need some time to review it.
Okay. All right, Trustee.
I'll follow up on that.
Yes,
Through you,
go ahead.
Chair. Similar to the journey ahead, when the journey ahead was presented to the board, the full report was given. And I know part of the directive was looking to see how the board, for example, is doing with the implementation of the journey ahead. So I'm not sure. I think that it would be, do I need a motion to request the full report? Because I'd like to see the full report.
Okay. Can we ask, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying once the strategy is developed, you're going to come back to the board with a report.
So what we're intending to do is a review. We need some time to review, develop a work plan.
Right.
And we're happy to provide time to time updates to the board
Right.
as requested.
Okay. Is that okay, Trustee McDonald?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right. So,
I understand what she's saying about developing a work plan.
right.
But through the chair, I'd like to see, read with my own eyes, the full report. That's what I'm
Okay.
asking for.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'd like to route that through consultation with Catherine. Can I take that back in terms of release of the report?
Yes. Okay, so why don't we, because there's some sensitive piece in this, Trustee McDonald, she's asking to take that back and then come back to us with a report. Is that okay with you?
Sorry, come back with a report
Yeah.
or the full report?
Okay.
Because I'd like to determine, is there any personal employee matters in there, any identifiable information in the report?
Okay,
In the full
so,
report?
so because of that, what you're asking for, there's some operational piece in that may have personal matter in that, and because of that, they cannot give us, a full report, but they can give us a summary of that, because we also have to be mindful of the sensitive nature in gathering all this information that was shared with our consultant that was hired to do this work. And then we have to also be mindful, staff has put themselves out there and trusted this consultant to do this work. And therefore, they're bringing back a report to us. And we as trustees, we have to be mindful of where we place ourselves when we are asking for sensitive matter has to do with staff issues.
But through your chair, when, at a previous report, when they came to the board with regards to what Tana Turner was hired to do,
Right.
my understanding was that the report would have no, when she presented to the board, my understanding was that the report would have no identifiable information for employees. And even when the survey was sent out to employees, that was
Right.
their understanding. So my understanding is that the report that was going, the final report was not going to have, that's what I heard from Tana Turner at another time. So if she's on the line, I could ask for clarity.
Okay.
Because I was told
You
that.
can, okay, so we'll ask you to ask our consultant that through you.
Thank you, Trustee Green, and through you. I think that for those reasons, I had asked for some time to consult and come back for those reasons where we have information that may identify to be able to remove. So that was the request for the review.
Okay,
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 thank you. I have more questions.
okay, go ahead.
Also, again, Tana Turner had said that the Journey Ahead review was going to be part of the ESR. So I'd also like to see the results of because that was part of the ministry directive actually, to see how we were implementing the Journey Ahead review. So we'll be able to see that report?
Okay.
Along with the results of the workplace census, because it was my understanding that that was completed. And again, I would like to share that, because the workplace census in the past, there's not any confidential identifiable information in the last workplace census report. So I'd like to know if we'll be able to see that report also.
So, Trustee McDonald, in consultation with our governance officer, you can make a motion, but in that motion, you have to ensure that you state that any information that are sensitive to staff is be redacted in that motion that you can make. You can make a motion to receive that, because again, one trustee cannot direct staff. It has to be a board. And once you have your colleagues that will support that, but in that motion, it has to be clear that, the motion state clearly that those sensitive information would be redacted.
Okay, now in the motion, I wouldn't like the word sensitive, because that's I guess that is subjective. What about personal or private information?
I'm just putting it,
yeah.
your words, it's your words. I'm just giving you an idea of
Okay.
what needs to be done, but it will be your words and what you want in the motion.
Absolutely. So can I put the motion on the floor now then?
Okay, sure you can.
Thank you. So I would like a motion that the HR department, or should I say the board, bring back to the governance board or board of trustees a report of the journey ahead review, how it is being implemented. Also, I would like the results of the workplace census, and I would like the full ESRG report that was produced by Tanner Turner, full stop. All identifiable information to be redacted, full stop, regardless of what the results are, good or bad. I would like them not to be redacted, full stop. Yes, thank you. So that's my motion.
Okay, do you
So
have
be it resolved, yeah.
Right, okay.
And then,
You got it? Okay, and do you have a seconder for that?
you have a second?
Trustee Pomoli is seconding it, okay? And all those in favor? Okay, go ahead, Nicole. Keep your hands up, she has to count. Okay,
And trustee Clark, you have him on? Okay.
okay. Those opposed? Sustain? Okay, all right, so the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have two more questions. I would like to ask, through you, Chair, if Tana Turner, if she had any evidence of EDI being embedded in our hiring practices, or was in.
So through you, Chair, I defer to Tana to be able to respond to that question.
Sorry, evidence of EDI being embedded.
Yes.
Certainly I found, some good aspects to the hiring process, but certainly made a number of recommendations with respect to more work that the board needs to do to fully embed EDI throughout its hiring policies, practices, procedures.
Thank you. And I have another question through you, Chair, for Tana Turner. And what was the framework used for targeted hiring if the report indicates that targeting, when the targeting hiring will be operationalized? So it's like two questions in one.
Can you repeat the question for me?
What was the framework used for targeted hiring? Or did you find any in your investigation? And if you could indicate when targeted hiring will be operationalized.
So there was some targeted hiring that or efforts that we did see with the outreach recruitment efforts, but certainly I think, and I can't remember all the specifics of what's in the report, but certainly we did find that there was more done with respect to encouraging applications than removing barriers to the hiring process and supporting the hiring of more Black and Indigenous teachers.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I got today, through Chair, I got a comment from an employee. Now, I have no idea. I didn't ask if they participated in your review or not, so I don't know. But I heard in your report, you mentioned about being more welcoming because, and I'm going to read a quotation, I wrote down what she said, because I find that at this time, the HR, it's a very important department to make sure that it's operating well. And the quotation is, employees who want accommodations are greeted with attitude and made to feel like they are faking it. The HR department is pushing people out and forcing them to go on disability or leave. And I just thought we're in a juncture in education when we need all hands on deck possible. So I just wanted to know if from your research or your work, if that, but you kind of briefly touched on that concern. That's why I really wanted to see the report too, to see like, you know, what did the report say about that, and what were your recommendations regarding that, if that was a concern that was raised.
So yes, we heard a lot about accommodations, and certainly what all boards saw during the pandemic was an increase need for accommodations, and not necessarily an increase in the staff to within HR to address the concerns, respond to issues, etc. So we did hear a lot around accommodations with respect to the time it takes for accommodations, and certainly with respect to principals being stretched, you know, lack of occasional staff to fill in as well, that the needs of persons with disabilities who are requesting accommodation weren't always addressed in a timely manner as well. So certainly there were many issues with respect to accommodation, and a number of recommendations with respect to addressing the concerns and further exploring what the issues are and diving deeper into that area, because it did come up as a very of grave concern to many employees.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Turner, for your report this afternoon. I'm going to ask Trustee Benjamin, can you put this on the floor for me? And Trustee Bailey, can you second it for me? Okay, so we have a motion coming out of this, but all in favor of the report? Okay, and opposed? Sustained? Carried. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you again, Tana, for your time and your effort. Thank you to each and every one that worked with the consultant to give your feedback and presentation and support for this report. Thank you. Okay, all right, we're going to move down to item 15.2, which is suspension, expulsion, safe school incident report, and employee workplace. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Saru to introduce Associate Director Ajwal.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Green, I will be asking Associate Director Harjit Aujla to present this report.
Thank you very much, Director Swaroop, and through you, Chair Green. I will ask Superintendent Stubbings to introduce the report on suspension, expulsion, safe schools incident reports, and employee workplace violence reports data. Included in this report will be some of the board's work within the ministry directives, specifically Directive 21, Policy 48, Restorative Justice and Procedural Fairness. I will now ask Superintendent Stubbings to please present the report.
Thank you, Associate Director Aujla. And through you, Chair Green, I am here tonight with Principal Althea Grant, School Support in Safe and Caring Schools. And I'd like to share a report that contains information regarding student suspensions, expulsions, and incidents of violence towards staff. The report contains data about 3 key pieces of information, and it is important to note that the data for this current school year is from September to March 10th. The suspension and expulsion data is compared to the 2018-2019 school year, as the 3 years in between were impacted by the COVID-19 global pandemic. While the number of suspensions has decreased, expulsions have increased. The Peel District School Board has taken a clear and definite stance on negative behavior, including incidents of violence, hate, sexual violence, and the use of and/or possession of weapons. Expulsions and suspensions are appropriate consequences for particular behaviors. However, student learning, reflection, and commitment to change are also important components of helping students return to a successful placement and pathway. The Employee Workplace Violence Report is required under the Occupational Health and Safety Act and includes 3 types of reporting criteria: the exercise of physical force, the attempt to exercise physical force, and a threat to exercise physical force. It is important to note that mitigating factors, such as a student's special education needs, are not taken into consideration. A report must be completed by employees, and one incident could generate multiple reports. The Safe Schools incident reports should be completed fairly and without bias, prejudice, or favoritism towards or against any student based on protected grounds under the Ontario Human Rights Code or for any other reason. When a staff member observes a behavior for which suspension may be considered, they are required to submit a report. Once the report is received by the principal will begin an investigation and will determine an appropriate outcome. It is important to note that the data is aggregate, and due to privacy and the possibility of being able to discern a particular incident, the data should be discussed on a system basis and not on an individual student or individual school basis. The Peel District School Board will continue to promote safety and well-being for all. This report reaffirms our resolve to prioritize restorative justice, progressive discipline, and inclusive and equitable learning environments. And thank you. Principal Grant and I would be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Superintendent Stubbin, for the report. I'm going to look around to see if trustee has question. I see trustee B. McDonald hands went up.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to make a list now.
Yep. Thank you.
Go ahead, trustee McDonald.
Yeah, through you, Chair, and thank you, Chair. And I want to thank, the staff for bringing this report. I think it's the first time I've seen statistics presented in my 20 years. So I can't thank you enough for bringing stuff, because this was a concern. We've only heard anecdotal information. Now we have the real facts. And you've highlighted some things. And first of all, I'll make a comment that with COVID, it's made it very difficult to identify any trends. And, when you look at the 2019 to 2020 year, March is when we stopped being in school. So, it was only a two-thirds year. So it makes it difficult to compare. And then 2 more years of COVID, and now we're into a full-time year. But, one thing you did recognize in the suspensions aspect, that they're way down compared to the 2018, 2019 perspective. Is there a reason that they're way down? And that's across elementary or secondary. And I also understand we changed the rules for elementary. 3 and under, we're not suspending anymore. So let's just look at high school, secondary. Is there a reason why that is down?
Superintendent Stubbin.
Through you, Chair, sorry.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I would say that the ministerial review and our policies and procedures and practices that have come out of Directive 21 have really contributed to a decrease in suspensions. We know, of course, that students K to 3 are not suspended, but principals now are using a framework, the Principals Analysis of Incident Report. It's mandatory, and it really allows them to conduct investigations using an anti-racist, anti-oppressive approach to interrogate bias and to learn how to characterize behavior. And I think it's also important to note that the historic overuse of the other category has been eliminated. Principals really are adhering to the Ed Act, and they are not suspending students for what I'll call arbitrary reasons, such as wearing hats and hoodies and do-rags and further clothing, and really are ensuring procedural fairness in all student discipline outcomes.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I appreciate that, and that's good news of why that's taken place. I also looked at, we've included staff incident reports, which again, we've heard about, but we haven't had documents. So first having this in front of us is something good, and hopefully in future years we can continually add this and see if trends are there and things that can be done to address this. Even though it's a number there, I still think it's high, and it's not a trend that's any higher than, let's say, 2018, 2019. But, I know it would be nice if we could focus, through you, Chair, on ways to, just like we've mitigated suspension, how we can mitigate incidents with our staff. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay. Trustee Bailey.
Through you, Chair. A part of the finding of the report had been that, if I'm not mistaken, the Black and Indigenous children were disproportionately suspended. It's not mentioned anywhere in here of any kind of data, whether that is still the trend or that's changed. That's my first question.
Superintendent Stubbins.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. No, this report does not contain data that's disaggregated by race. I believe that when we have information from the student census, we will be able to make that determination, and that will really allow us to monitor our progress towards eliminating racial disparities in suspensions and expulsions.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Through you, Chair. So when students are being suspended, that data is not collected while you're collecting the same data?
Go ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, race does play an important role when principals are conducting investigations, but for the purposes for this report, we did not disaggregate the data by race. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we only have about 50% data for students right now.
Okay, through Chair, would it be possible to get a report on that to find out that information?
Yes, that will be coming back to the board.
Okay. So my next question would be, you mentioned in your report that these numbers on the final page, one situation can be counted multiple times because it comes across that. Do you have a number, the unique number of situations?
Superintendent Stubbins, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't have that information. So just to be clear, when an employee observes a behavior, it could be one incident and multiple employees observe that behavior. All employees are required to submit a report. I don't have the information based on single incidents.
So there would be no, just to clarify through you, Chair, there's no way to understand how many incidents this actually represents?
Go ahead, Superintendent.
Correct. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Alves.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Through you, Chairman. The question I have regarding the statistics on violence, and I want to make sure I'm interpreting the data correctly. Looking at 2022 to 2023, I understand that 2,885, 86% of all violence is violence exercise of physical force.
Superintendent Stebbins? Okay, just give her a minute to get to that page.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, and I just want to be clear that, the definitions of violence as per the Ontario Health and Safety Act can include scratching, can include pinching, can include biting, and certainly more serious incidents. And so all of those incidents are captured as violent incidents.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I suppose my next question is, you had mentioned that suspensions are down this year, and I do think that's fantastic. It's good to see them down. It'd be great to get them even lower. But if suspensions are down and incidents of physical violence are up, some of those examples I'm not a legal expert, but constitute what is defined as an assault. What are we doing instead of these suspensions for acts of physical violence? Could we get a little bit of clarity there?
Superintendent, go ahead.
Thank you, and through your chair, I'm going to ask Althea Grant to join me on that, because there's a lot of work that we do around progressive discipline for acts of violence.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Stebbins, and through you, Chair. So there's a lot of work that we do in terms of progressive discipline. We do believe in the Safe and Care in Schools department that students demonstrate what they need through their behaviors. And so we first and foremost provide progressive supports to schools and train administrators as well, but also we have to make sure that we're characterizing the behavior. And so if this is a 310, we must suspend. And so when we think about a 310 infraction, we're thinking about weapons in schools. Those infractions we take very seriously. But in terms of addressing violence, we want to make sure that we take a progressive approach, that administrators are using the resources that are available to them at the school, in the community, and in the board. So we're thinking about educators changing the learning environment, making sure that they're taking a culturally responsive approach as educators in the classroom first. If students are engaged in their classrooms, then they're not in the halls, they're not wandering the halls. We're ensuring that we're using our guidance counselors, our special education staff. We're using board resources. We're using our Indigenous education staff, our Black resource teachers. We're engaging 2S LGBTQ+ students. We're supporting affinity spaces for students. We're using speech and language. So all of these progressive approach to ensure that we're changing the learning environments before we suspend. And so we're no longer suspending kids for wearing clothing like hoodies and do-rags. So of course our suspensions are lower, but certainly we're taking those violent incidences very, very seriously. We're using our affinity groups, our faith organizations, community groups to make sure that we're supporting students, because when they demonstrate inappropriate behaviors, they're actually telling us what they need.
Go ahead, Trustee.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Through you, Chairman. I suppose I think I may have a couple follow-ups, but on that note, you mentioned 310. I think we have a few families that might be listening in that aren't exactly clear on what 310 is. And then if we could please just get some clarification. So I'm referring specifically to incidents of physical violence, not suspensions that are related to clothing or, as you rightfully mentioned, arbitrary issues. And I'll give some context for the background of my question. I've had a few parents who have emailed me who have had
Trustee Huff.
Yes.
Got to stay to the system level.
Sure.
You can't, in anything to do with individual,
Okay.
what you heard, what email, you go through your superintendent for that. So
Thank you, Chairman.
Let's focus on system.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the feedback. I was trying to be general, but I'll heed the advice. So generally speaking, I'm only referring to incidents of physical violence, violence that would typically be considered as an assault. I'm noticing in the data that violence is up, or physical violence is up, but suspensions are down. So I suppose my last comment is just the clarification on the 310. And in this report, I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. Are we able to see any breakdown of, for that section for physical violence, are we able to see how those 2,885 incidents were dealt with? Thank you, Chairman.
Superintendent Stubbing, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'll begin and then I'll have Principal Grant join me in on the answer. And so just to be clear that when an employee observes an incident or is subjected to physical violence, that doesn't automatically equate to a suspension. Principals are required to consider mitigating and other factors. Age, for example, is a significant mitigating prior to arriving at a decision to suspend. In terms of the total numbers and a breakdown of what actual action resulted in the report, I don't have that information. But I'll ask Principal Grant to join me in on that answer.
I think that that's a great question, Trustee Alves, and through you, Chair. So I just want to ask a clarifying question. Is it physical violence against staff or students against students? Because we would deal with that very differently.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Through you, Chairman. I suppose I'd like to know the information for both. I think both would be helpful. And in my clarification, just to know of those incidents of physical violence, I think the information that would be helpful for the board to know would be how are they dealt with, age category roughly, perhaps by grade, because you've made a great point that, you know, age does matter. But yeah, just maybe a further breakdown of the 2883.
Right, so through you, Chair. So, and we really have to defer to our enabling authority, which is the Education Act, Section 310, which states that when there's a physical assault where the victim requires medical attention, then that's absolutely a report to the police. We do continue to have a relationship with the police. As a school, the administrator must suspend for 20 days. Allegedly, so that they can do their investigation. So that is the process. The administrator would suspend that student for 20 days, would suspend the student for 20 days so that gives that administrator the ability to investigate. We would engage in a fact finding and then apply mitigators. And we must take into consideration students' special education status, the student's history. So there's a thorough investigation. We want to make sure that investigation is completed thoroughly and thoroughly, but also quickly, and a suspension is applied. Also, there is also the need to think about whether it meets the threshold for expulsion. So absolutely, if a student has engaged in physical assault where the victim requires medical attention, we would do a suspension and an investigation.
For you, Chairman Green, I suppose my last question is, so are we able to get that breakdown perhaps down the line?
Superintendent Stubbing, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, if I understand correctly, I'm not able to discern under the employee workplace violence reports which report was a result of which behavior. So I can't tell you how many were scratches, how many were serious incidents of violence.
Through you, Chairman, thank you very much. But if I understand, could we do instead the total of the 2883 that involved contact with the police? Is that reasonable?
Superintendent Stubbing, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, we don't collect data on number of times police are called or which incidents. I mean, and for a suspension, 310, where it's mandatory notification to police, certainly that takes place. But for other incidents, we don't track that data.
Through you, Chairman. Yep, I was just referring to the 310s. Total number of the 310s that are accumulate at 2883. That would be the only ask. And that's my final question. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Cole.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Very quick question. I'm wondering if teachers have access to safe school reporting or if it's only the principals.
Superintendent Stubbing.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, all staff, including teaching staff, EAs, are all trained on how to use the Safe Schools Incident Report yearly, and they are all staff are required to report incidents for which they believe a suspension or an expulsion may be warranted.
Okay, and last question through you, Chair. Do you know the last time teachers were given training on how to report?
Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Chair. Every September, during their PL days, there is training. I'm not sure exactly the date of the training that will happen for the upcoming school year. And we also provide some e-modules for educational staff to understand how to make those reports.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Jill Ponelli.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for bringing all of this tonight. I know that a lot of us have had questions about what we've been seeing in some of our schools and hearing about from the community. So I really am grateful for all the information that has been brought back here. I did have a quick clarifying question about the census. Was the same census given for all students from kindergarten to grade 3? Are the questions the same across the board?
Superintendent?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure. I'm not the right person to answer that question.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
well, no, go ahead.
can I?
There was a
turn this-
reason I was
No,
asking.
can I turn it over to Director Sru?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
To make a
Yes.
comment or appoint somebody
Yes,
to answer
through you,
that?
Chair Green. You're asking about which census. Could I just clarify, please?
Yeah. Oh, so the student census that's going
That's
out
going
right now.
out?
Yes.
And the question is if the questions are the same for,
For all grade levels.
so there is a variation and questions for kindergarten to 3, 4 to 6 or 4 to 8, and then 9 to 12. There is some difference.
Okay, yeah, so through you, Chair, the reason that I was asking was because I do have a third grader, and so I had to fill out the census for one of my own children, and there were no questions there regarding suspensions, regarding discipline of any kind. So my question, going back to what we had heard earlier, that we would gain more understanding about how suspensions and discipline are being applied, whether they're being disproportionately applied, from the student census, but I'm not clear how that would happen if we don't have that question in the census, but maybe it's different in other grades?
Go ahead, Director.
Through you, Chair. So what the superintendent was referring to is that the student census will give us who the students are, because then that is in our information. So when a discipline issue occurs, then we can make that correlation. So it's not to do with discipline questions in the census.
So through you, Chair, if I understand correctly, the idea is that we have a better understanding of how our students are identifying themselves. So in the future, when there is discipline applied, then we'll be able to have a better understanding of whether that's being disproportionately applied. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the clarity.
Trustee Benjamin.
Through you, Chair, this is just a clarification I'm looking for. We are talking of employee workplace violence, and will any incident of violence against an employee of the board by a parent be considered or be recorded? Because I know of these incidents taking place. So what is the procedure that's going to be followed?
I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Stubbins.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, yes, if an employee is subjected to violence by a parent, they're required to submit the report. And really, the purpose is so that the principal becomes aware of the issue and can address and intervene and take appropriate action.
Thank you.
Trustee Kema.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. My first question is, are on the chart that's provided, are suspensions, let's say, for example, a student gets suspended at first, and then the student is expelled, is that counted twice?
Go ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you. No, a student would be on a 20-day suspension pending expulsion once the investigation is completed. If the discipline committee determines that an expulsion is warranted, it's counted as an expulsion. It's not double counted.
Okay, thank you for that. And through you, Chair, is there any way to know if the number of incidents that occur off-site that lead to suspension, is there a way to differentiate those type of occurrences versus incidents that are occurring on PDSB property?
So, Trustee McNum, you're asking about Nexus. Nexus.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Superintendent Stubbins, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We don't disaggregate the information. However, if there is a incident that has taken place off of school property that has a negative impact on the school climate, then that student or those students could be suspended. But we don't track where the incident took place in that regard. Okay,
thank you. And before I ask my last question, actually, too, I just want to thank you for this report because it has a lot of valuable information in it. So I really appreciate it, Superintendent Stubbins and your team. So I was just wondering, I know it's not captured in this report, but through you, Chair, is there any way to know how we are comparing to other boards?
Superintendent Stubbins, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Green. Perhaps we could do a jurisdictional scan, but I haven't done that. It hasn't been requested. So I'm not sure how our data compares to other boards.
Okay, thank you.
So, Trustee McDonald, let me have in my weekly meeting with the director, let's talk about that and I'll report back to you, to all the trustees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing no, Trustee Davy. Oh, I didn't, okay, Trustee Clark and then Trustee Sato Singh. Trustee Clark, go ahead. Somebody got to keep me. And the hands go
No
up the
problem.
line, okay? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Yes, I also want to show my appreciation for everybody who worked on the report. I certainly like the growing fulsomeness of it, including staff. Okay, so I have my notes for what I was going to ask. You were saying that there were suspensions under the previous system, for non-threatening things like wearing hats in class, stuff like that. What has changed in the threshold for a suspension between then and now?
Superintendent Stubbins.
Thank you, Chair. Because of Directive 21, the administrators, superintendents, we have had extensive training on how to conduct a procedurally fair, anti-racist, anti-oppressive investigation and been able to determine appropriate outcomes. So in terms of what has changed, I will say that it's our learning and our alignment to the Ed Act that has changed.
Okay, so it's the associated rules governing behavior that have changed.
I apologize. Thank you, Chair. I would say that our understanding in terms of how to complete a proper, thoroughly, procedurally fair investigation has deepened. We have built confidence and capacity throughout the system to ensure that we are not making arbitrary decisions around suspensions and expulsions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Sato.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Suspensions are down. That is good news for us, but it seems incidents of violence, aggression, hate, discrimination are not happening in less numbers, I believe, from other years. So I was just wondering if it's possible to do a ward-wide scan in our schools to know where more suspensions are happening, if that's possible.
Superintendent Stubbins?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. For privacy reasons really relating to the school as well as the students enrolled, including people who are involved in incidents and those perhaps who are harmed, this report is simply providing system-wide data and not data as per each school.
I have just a clarification, just a small question. I was wondering if violence against a staff or teacher by the student and violence against student by the student is dealt with the same force.
Superintendent Stubbins, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. To clarify, you're asking me if violence against staff is the same force as violence against from student to student?
Yeah, if it has same consequences for the student who is doing it.
Oh, I see. So if I understand you correctly, if a student is violent towards staff and there's an investigation, it would be the same outcome as if students were violent against another student.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're good, Trustee? Paul?
Yeah, that, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Cameron, did you have your hand up? No? Okay, all right. Everybody is good? All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna ask Trustee Satpal Singh and Trustee Davy to move this report for me, please. All those in favor of the report? Oppose? Carried, thank you. And I just want to comment, especially for the public that is listening. We're talking about suspension of 20 days. We want you to understand that when students are suspended for 20 days, there's resource and support that are provided to that students. They are not just basically suspended and they're sitting at home doing nothing. Oftentimes they are referred to our alternative programs so that they can continue their learning. Because that is important, doesn't matter what circumstances, every student deserves to have a good education, and even through circumstances may arrive that may find them in a situation, those supports continue to provide to them. So thank you, and thank you, Superintendent Stubbins and Principal Grant, for this great report this evening. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm gonna move down to item 15.3, which is, and I'm gonna ask our new student trustees, I think they're in line to turn on their cameras so we can see who you are. So we have from Lincoln Alexander coming in for our September, Sharif Tree from Lincoln Alexander, and then we also have from Arundel, Omar Al-Win. So if you could just turn on your camera so we can see you, and can you join me in congratulating our new elected student trustees. So on behalf of the entire board, I look forward in meeting with you, working with you, and we will ensure that we assign the trustees that will work with you to mentor you and to provide you all the information and resources so that you can do a great job. I know you will represent your fellow student very well. So welcome, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you. So can I have Trustee Halv and Trustee Cole move receipt of that? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move down to item 15.4, which is candidate for Special Advisory Council vacancy. And I'm going to turn over to Director Suru, who will introduce Associate De Silva to make this presentation.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Green, I'm going to ask Associate Director Paul De Silva to present this report.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Chair Green. As you know, the Special Education Advisory Committee, better known as SEAC, is an important committee that advises the board on special education programs and services available to PDSB students. It's a vital platform that allows community organizations to collaborate with the board, bringing forth an essential perspective on various issues related to the delivery of special education services. In addition, SEAC representative organizations act as a voice for parents, providing an additional route for communication and collaboration with the PDSB education community. The committee is made up of 12 members from qualified organizations or associations. I will now turn it over to Superintendent Newby to present the report, recommended candidate for Special Education Advisory Committee, vacant member seat.
Thank you, Associate Director De Silva. So we are seeking the recommendation and the approval from the board that Salbona Afrocentric Circle of Support be appointed to fill the member organization vacancy on the Special Education Advisory Committee. Submissions were evaluated based on the requirements communicated in the call-out, including being an incorporated organization, operating throughout Ontario, furthering the interests and well-being of one or more groups of exceptional children or adults, not representing professional educators. Submissions were also evaluated based on alignment with strategic priorities within the board and within the Special Education and Social Emotional Learning Department. Peel District School Board is committed to maintaining and enhancing community partnerships that support all students, particularly Black students and students with disabilities. The annual equity report card produced in compliance with Ministry Directive 9 states the following. Absenteeism is almost twice as high among some marginalized groups. African, Black, Afro-Caribbean, Indigenous, Latinx, Hispanic, and Middle Eastern students experience higher instances of absenteeism compared to other students, suggesting that schools may not be places where they feel safe and/or offer a sense of belonging. The mandate of Salbona Afrocentric Circle of Support includes educating families on their rights and responsibilities, enlightening them about services available to them, and empowering them to advocate in ways that can improve the overall well-being and sense of belonging of Black students, particularly those with disabilities within the school system. Given the intersectionality of race and disability and its impact on students, the inclusion of an organization at SEAC that can speak to both areas, that being race and disability, is in line with the guiding principles of the Black Student Success Strategy. Specifically, the recognition that the education system is not neutral and system transformation requires community voice. Inclusion of Salbona Afrocentric Circle of Support on Peel SEAC is a proactive step towards fostering a culture of respect and dignity for a group that has been historically underserved within the education system. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any question for Superintendent Newby before I read the motions? Okay, so the motion before us this afternoon is that the Salbona Afrocentric Circle of Support be appointed to fulfill the member organization vacancy and the Special Education Advisory Committee. Can I have a mover? I'm seeing Trustee Cameron and Trustee Cole. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you. Now, we're going to move down to item 15.5, and I'm going to turn over to Director Sarul to introduce a team that is here to give us an oral report on our annual United campaign.
Through you, Chair Green, I'm very pleased to invite United Way Chair Michael Miller and Superintendent Leslie Grant to present the annual United Way Campaign Board Report.
Thank you, Director Swaroop, and through you, Chair. It is my pleasure to stand as the senior team's United Way representative. And typically, when we present the annual fundraising report from the United Way, President and CEO Danielle Zanotti joins us to provide his enthusiastic gratitude for our partnership. However, due to a scheduling conflict today, he is unable to join us. So on behalf of the United Way, and on behalf of myself personally, I'd like to thank Peel staff who participated in our United Way fundraising efforts. We know that our fundraising efforts that we participate in every year support students and families who we serve in our communities. And we know in particularly in times that are difficult like this, it's very important for us to support as best we can. And now I'd like to introduce this year's United Way Chair, Principal Mike Miller, to provide the fundraising report. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Superintendent Grant, and through you, Chair. Good evening, Director Swarup, Chair Green, Board of Trustees, Associate Directors, Superintendents of Education, and everyone in attendance. Thank you for allowing me to share some closing comments about this year's campaign. As the Chair, it is a pleasure to be here tonight. It is the work of the United Way Committee, along with the PDSB staff, who have made this year's campaign possible. This year, we aim to be better together by raising awareness of the needs of Peel students and their families. Once again, this year's campaign relied solely upon the generosity of PDSB staff who participated in our employee giving campaign between November 30th and December 16th of 2022. Director Swarup also actively stoked enthusiasm for the campaign by launching it in November 30th's board meeting. An additional system-wide message was also shared to encourage staff participation. I'm happy to share that we raised $39,883, which will go a long way to help United Way reach and support Peel families. As chair, it has been a privilege to be part of such a strong partnership shared between the PDSB and the United Way. We recognize that we can only provide our students and families with the appropriate and much needed support they deserve with strong community partnerships in place. I would like to thank all members of the United Way Committee. Mainly, I would like to thank Superintendent Leslie Grant for her commitment to serving as our senior admin liaison. Superintendent Grant embraced the spirit of the campaign from its beginning and has worked alongside the senior admin team to engage staff by offering winners of employee donation draws, job shadowing opportunities with superintendents and the director herself. The 2022-2023 senior administrative team has walked the talk, working to raise staff motivation and awareness. Thank you, Director, for your leadership. You have embraced the campaign, and we are grateful for this. Thank you also to Ashley Bigda for her supporting the campaign's communication needs. And thank you to Raj Chandagra, our United Way liaison. Your experience and your commitment to the United Way are inspiring. Finally, thank you to all the Board of Trustees who supported this worthy project. On behalf of the United Way Committee, I close by thanking all PDSB employees for supporting the United Way. Our collective efforts and contributions will undoubtedly positively impact Peel communities. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the entire board, definitely Superintendent Grant, and Superintendent and Principal Miller. I want to say thank you for your dedication and your commitment to this work. I know that a lot of work do go into this campaign, and we can't tell you how much it's always important for us as a board to ensure that we're supporting United Way, because in return, they are supporting many of our families that are in need in Peel and our students. So thank you for your commitment and your dedication. And once again, congratulations on behalf of the entire board. I'm going to ask Trustee Kathy McDonald to move receipt, and Trustee Jill Caminelli. All those in favor, receive this report. Thank you. Approve. Okay. Thank you. Have a great evening. Okay. All right. Good. We're getting there. And we're going to go down to item 16. There's no communications. 17, no trustee motion for consideration. And 18, no trustee notice of motions. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That I'm getting to it, yeah. So when I go down to 18.1, there's a notice just for a trustee to be aware that at our next board meeting, we would need to appoint two trustees to the Ontario School Board Association as director and two alternate to represent this board for the upcoming school year. So again, that's two trustees as director and two alternate. This is just a notice that at the next board meeting, we will be voting to appoint 4 people, 2 director and 2 alternate. Okay? Just a notice. All right, so we'll do that at our next board meeting, because then that has to be sent on to the Ontario School Board Association for the AGM that will be in June 8th to, I think, June 8th to 12, if I'm not, or 11, someplace there. Thank you. I'm going to ask Trustee Bailey and Trustee Cole to move receipt. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Yes. Okay, all right. So just some good news before we end the night. We have a couple of videos that we just want to show trustees this afternoon, and we're going to have a technician to cue those up for us and play. Let's head in the night and good with a good news. Great work that is happening in our schools.
Every year, the National Space Society and NASA present a series of challenges to high school students, one of which is the renowned Gerard K. O'Neill Space Settlement Contest. It tasks students with designing a self-sustainable orbital space settlement. This year's contest drew a staggering 26,000 participants from 19 countries, generating over 4,000 submissions. Central Peel fielded 2 teams in the international competition, a grade 12 team and a grade 9 team. Both teams emerged victorious, taking home the first place title in the world in their respective categories. These 2 Central Peel teams are the only Canadian teams recognized internationally this year. The submission documents prepared by the 2 winning teams are a remarkable demonstration of their interdisciplinary research and analytical skills. These students are to be commended for their excellent accomplishment.
So thank you, Director Saru, for presenting those videos and great things that students are doing in our school board and making us proud. So thank you for allowing us to see those this afternoon. Much appreciated. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take the time to thank everyone for being here tonight. And I thank my colleagues for a very informative and very curious meeting this evening. Wonderful question asked today. And I believe we got some great answers. We got some good reports. and we're looking forward for even great things to come in terms of how we move forward as a board together. Thank you. With that said, I'm going to ask Trustee Satpal Singh and Trustee Will Davey to move us adjournment. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.